Hollywood's golden age was a time of glittering stars and larger-than-life personalities, leading men who weren't just actors, but cultural icons. Yet, as the years rolled on, some of these legends seemed to vanish, their names remembered only by die-hard fans or buried deep in film history. Who were these forgotten leading men? What made them shine so brightly? And where are they? Today, we're uncovering the stories behind 10 Hollywood's forgotten leading men. Tyrone Power, one of the most dashing leading men of the 1930s and 1940s. With his piercing eyes and a smile that could charm anyone, Power was the quintessential romantic hero. Tyrone Power was Hollywood's golden boy. He could do it all: action, drama, comedy, and his versatility made him a box office draw. From swashbuckling in The Mark of Zorro to the chilling noir of Nightmare Alley, Power's range was truly remarkable. But Power's life wasn't all glamour. His career was interrupted by World War II, where he served as a pilot in the Marine Corps. When he returned, Hollywood was changing, and his clean-cut image didn't quite fit the grittier, post-war films audiences craved. Tragically, Power died at just 44 years old, collapsing on a film set in Spain. His sudden death left a void in Hollywood and ensured he'd never get the late career resurgence some stars achieve. Today, Tyrone Power's films still resonate, and his influence can be seen in modern leading men. Robert Taylor. Known as the man with the perfect profile, Robert Taylor was the heartthrob of his era. His boy-next-door charm paired with rugged masculinity made him a favorite among audiences. Taylor's career was defined by roles that balanced intensity and vulnerability. He starred in romantic dramas like Waterloo Bridge, a heartbreaking tale of love and loss, and epic historical films like Quo Vadis, where he held his own against lavish sets and sweeping narratives. But Taylor's career faced hurdles. During the Red Scare of the 1950s, he became embroiled in controversy for naming suspected communists, which alienated some colleagues and tarnished his image. In his later years, Taylor stepped away from the limelight, focusing on his personal life and enjoying quiet moments on his California ranch. He passed away in 1969 at just 57 years old, leaving behind a legacy of over 70 films. Robert Taylor's name might not ring a bell for younger audiences, but his films remain classics. Fred MacMurray. You probably know Fred MacMurray as the lovable dad from My Three Sons, or maybe as the absent-minded professor. But what many don't realize is that MacMurray was one of Hollywood's most versatile actors. In Double Indemnity, he played Walter Neff, an insurance salesman caught in a web of murder and deceit. It's one of the greatest film noir performances of all time. In the 1950s, MacMurray shifted gears, becoming a staple of family films. While this made him a household name, it also overshadowed his earlier, grittier work. Fred MacMurray spent his later years far from Hollywood, living a peaceful life on his ranch. He passed away in 1991, leaving behind a body of work that continues to inspire filmmakers today. Dana Andrews. Dana Andrews was the everyman of Hollywood. With his understated style and smoldering screen presence, he was the star of some of the most iconic films of the 1940s. Laura and The Best Years of Our Lives are masterpieces of their time, and Andrews' performances are central to their success. He had a knack for playing complex characters, often torn between duty and desire. Sadly, Andrews struggled with alcoholism, which affected his career in the 1950s. Despite his talent, he found fewer opportunities as Hollywood moved into a new era. In his later years, Andrews became an advocate for recovering alcoholics, using his story to inspire others. He passed away in 1992, his legacy cemented in the films he left behind. Errol Flynn. If there's one name synonymous with swashbuckling adventure, it's Errol Flynn. The Tasmanian-born actor defined the dashing hero, leaping into action with unparalleled charisma. Flynn wasn't just an actor, he was an icon of adventure. From his heroic turn in The Adventures of Robin Hood to his high-seas escapades in Captain Blood, he became Hollywood's original action star. But Flynn's life was as dramatic off-screen as it was on. Known for his wild lifestyle and scandalous personal life, he earned the nickname the Swashbuckler of Scandal. His career began to wane as he aged, and his hard-partying reputation caught up with him. By the 1950s, Flynn was struggling with health issues and financial troubles. He passed away at just 50 years old, but his adventurous spirit remains alive in the countless films he inspired. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift wasn't your typical leading man. His sensitive, introspective performances were groundbreaking in an era dominated by larger-than-life heroes. He brought depth and vulnerability to roles that redefined masculinity on screen. Clift's career soared in the late 1940s and 1950s. With films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity, he became a symbol of the brooding, conflicted hero. But tragedy struck in 1956 when Clift was involved in a devastating car accident that left his face partially paralyzed. Though he continued to work, his health and confidence deteriorated, and he struggled with addiction. Montgomery Clift passed away in 1966 at just 45 years old, leaving behind a legacy of deeply moving performances that still resonate with audiences today. Alan Ladd. With his quiet intensity and boyish good looks, Alan Ladd was a different kind of leading man. He wasn't larger than life. He was understated, subtle, and all the more compelling for it. Ladd's defining role came in Shane, where his portrayal of the lone gunslinger cemented him as a Western legend. But he was also a star of classic noirs like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia. Despite his success, Ladd struggled with depression and a feeling that he never truly fit into the Hollywood system. By the late 1950s, his star had faded, and he began taking smaller roles. Alan Ladd died in 1964 at just 50 years old, but his legacy lives on in his iconic performances, especially in Shane, a film often cited as one of the greatest westerns ever made. Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney wasn't just an actor, he was a chameleon. Known for his transformative roles and dedication to the craft, Mooney brought historical figures and complex characters to life. Mooney was one of the earliest actors to immerse himself completely in his characters. In The Story of Louis Pasteur, he gave an Academy Award-winning performance that set a new standard for biographical films. But Mooney's insistence on artistic control made him difficult to work with in Hollywood's studio system. By the 1940s, he had largely stepped away from films, choosing instead to focus on theater. Paul Mooney retired from acting in the 1950s and passed away in 1967. Though his name may not be widely recognized today, his influence on character acting is undeniable. Victor Mature. Victor Mature was one of Hollywood's most dependable leading men, known for his towering physique and rugged charm. From biblical epics like Samson and Delilah to westerns like My Darling Clementine, he could do it all. Mature's roles often capitalized on his physicality, but he was much more than just a hunk of his era. His nuanced performances in films like Kiss of Death showcased a depth that critics often overlooked. Unlike many of his peers, Mature walked away from Hollywood on his own terms. He retired in the early 1960s, joking that he was tired of pretending to be someone else for a living. Victor Mature lived a long and happy life, passing away in 1990 at the age of 86. While he may not be a household name today, his films remain a testament to his talent and versatility. Finally, we come to Glenn Ford, a leading man who could play both the hero and the anti-hero with ease. From the smoldering tension of Gilda to the hard-hitting noir of The Big Heat, Ford was one of the most bankable stars of his time. Ford's appeal lay in his relatability. He wasn't larger than life, he was approachable, yet still commanding. This made him a favorite among audiences and directors alike. Later in life, Ford quietly stepped back from acting, focusing on his family and his personal interests. He passed away in 2006, leaving behind a career that spanned over 50 years. These forgotten leading men may no longer dominate the spotlight, but their contributions to cinema are timeless. Which of these stars deserves to be remembered most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more trips down Hollywood's memory lane.